are back on Real Estate with Soul, the podcast. I'm so excited. We've been planning this, I'm going to say really for like a year. Mr. Eric Paul, one of my original clients, then shifted to his lady, took him, turned into the realtor, and he's a client through her to me now because she works for me. Melissa Barajas, she's amazing as well, and she's an agent in our office. Eric, gosh, we met, 15, 16, 17 years ago?
Yeah, it's probably been that long. It's amazing. Time flies.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I want to say this was in the first, actually it has been. So it's been 17, almost 18 years that we met because you, and I don't know that you know this, but when I first started in the business, I first started working with you and Melissa. You were referred to me from an amazing client. And you impressed me because I was a baby in the business and I didn't know what I was doing. But I remember you were like, I want to go buy houses in Adelanto and I'm going to pay cash for them. And we always had to write the offers and include the proof of funds. And I remember when you drove up and met me at one of the first houses, you pulled up in your little car, right? Your little red car.
Yeah.
You pulled up in that and you were like just this regular old humble dude in a white t-shirt and jeans. And you were like, hey, I want to buy a house. Okay, this is good. I'll buy this one. And then I was like, okay, great. Send me your proof of funds. And you actually had so much cash in the bank to purchase this property cash that I was like, this regular old guy can do it. So can I, Lorianne. You can do this. And you were one of my first inspirations. Can I just tell you that?
Well, thank you very much. That's great to hear.
And since then, I know you've invested in quite a bit of real estate.
Sure.
And I know why you wanted to come on the podcast is because you see the value of investing in real estate.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's the conversation we really want to have today.
Okay.
So go ahead. I know, like, originally, when did you first start investing in real estate yourself?
Well, I think my first investment was my very first property back in 1996.
Okay.
And, I mean, I was like many people with their first property, I was absolutely terrified.
Yeah.
I bought this condominium, and it was all of $55,000. I'm sure some of the people that watch your podcast, they probably spent more money on cars nowadays, right? It's not hard to do. But at the time, this was the most terrifying thing I had ever purchased. I was thinking, oh my God, how am I going to afford this condo? And I put a bid in. It was a HUD repo, and I always look for value in my investments. So I felt I had found a good value with this one. And I took a chance. And I think that everyone needs to, at some point, you've got to step up and take a chance.
Yes.
If you don't, you're never going to get ahead, especially in a state like California that's so competitive.
Right.
So one of the things that a lot of people don't know is that back then in 1996, my starting interest rate was 9%.
Wow. Really?
9%. I'll never forget. And but it didn't faze me then because that's what rates were.
Right.
Everyone was paying that. I may have paid a little bit more, maybe a quarter point higher because I was a first-time buyer.
Yes.
But everyone was paying that rate.
Yeah.
And of course, on a $55,000 loan, the payments weren't huge by today's standards.
Yeah, but that was still big back then.
Back then, I was on my first job, and here I am signing for 30 years. I'm fresh out of school, and I didn't even know how long I could keep this job.
You're 26, right? You said you were...
96, I would have been 24.
24.
24, but it was either that or, stay at home and live with my parents, and well, that was scarier than the 9% mortgage, right?
I love that. You just inspired my son.
So that was enough to get me to sign on the dotted line. And I don't know if I think it was about a year or two later, rates had come down a little bit, and Countrywide had sent me a flyer in the mail. And guess what? I refinanced, and the payment got a little bit lower, and things got a little bit better. And it just kind of started from that one piece of property. And once I realized I could do it, after that, then it just got easier and easier.
Yeah. I can also attest, when I bought my first property, I was about 25. Interest rates were 6% when I bought. And my purchase price was $169,000. And I remember it was just my husband and I, and we had one income at the time.
Oh, wow.
And our payment was $2,500 a month. And we'd never really paid a real rent because we kind of went from his dad's house to my parents' rental, and they gave us a break for 6 months to save. We didn't pay rent. We just saved our money so we could have a down payment with 3.5% down.
Hey, that's great.
And we were scared to death to make a $2,500 a month payment.
Right? I mean, I would have been too. You think back on it, and it just seems crazy, right?
Yes.
How nervous we were, and I think a lot of anybody that's out there for the first time buying, and then we've lost a lot of first time buyers this year.
Yes.
Unfortunately, they don't seem to be coming into the market, maybe because they're afraid of what interest rates are.
Right.
Everyone talks about it like it's this huge jump. It's really just a return to normal, right?
Right.
During the pandemic, rates went crazy low, and I refinanced a property. I think maybe it was just before the pandemic, but when rates are low, what do? You refinance.
Yes.
And if rates aren't low, then you just stick it out until, it gets better.
That's right.
But if you can make whatever payment it is that you first start with, $2,500 in your case,
Yes.
what difference does it make what the interest rate is?
That's
If you're getting the home you want at a price you can afford, who cares?
right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like you should ignore it. Just take whatever rate someone gives you. You should always shop for the best rate that is available at the time. But only one of three things can happen. If rates go up, well, good on you. You got in at a lower rate. Right?
Yes.
So great. You should be happy. If rates stay the same, well, you got the house that you wanted
Yes.
at the payment that you can afford. Well, you should be happy.
Yes.
If rates drop, refinance, get a lower payment. Once again, you should be happy. So, I guess what I'm saying is, getting into real estate, there's not really a bad time. I mean, yeah, we've had some bubbles here and there, and I get people are cautious.
Yes.
But I bought that first property with you right after the bubble.
Yeah.
And everybody that bought right before the bubble is now perfectly fine.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
All those properties have recovered.
Yes.
And they've gone past what they sold for initially. So
Yes.
let me give you an example on that condo.
Yes.
So that first condo, I told you it was a HUD repo.
Mm-hmm.
The original loan on it was $110,000.
Okay.
The bubble, I guess there was a little bit of a bubble, or I don't know. Maybe it was the fact that it was a repo and it was kind of trashed, and
Sure. Those are your favorite.
Yeah, I know. I like to put the work into it, right? Because it is some work. I actually repaired the terrible mauve carpet that was in there because I didn't have the money to replace it. So I had it stretched and repaired. I think now about it, I'm like, God, what a insane move that was. But that house was $110, and I got it for $55.
Yes. Wow.
Right? So you're thinking, oh my God, that property lost half its value.
Right.
Okay, but then when I sold it in 2018, this is what everyone really needs to focus on. When I sold it in 2018, we sold it, I think, but I don't know if it was with, no, it wasn't with Real Estate Resolve yet.
That was KW. Oh,
that was KW
yeah.
with Melissa at $338.
Yes, I remember.
So, yeah, even if I had bought it at the high point before it went down and bought it for $110, it still would have tripled.
Yes.
So again, if you can get the property that you want at a payment you can afford, there's no reason not to buy.
Right. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is figuring out. I mean, so many times we sit and talk with buyers, and I mean, I did on Saturday over the weekend. I sat down with a new set of buyers. He's very analytical. I'm super excited about analyticals, because when you're analytical, like, the numbers just need to match. So there's no figuring it out. It either just makes sense or it doesn't, and they'll either say yes or no. There's no, I've got to think about it. It's just, yeah, those numbers work for me, let's move forward, or no, those numbers don't work for me. So even whether you're analytical or not, it doesn't matter. What does stop you, though, is if you get paralyzed in the analysis of it.
Yes.
Have you ever struggled with that?
Yes, actually, it just I shouldn't say just recently, but over the last 5 years, I think I was a little more bold when I was younger, and as we age, we tend to be somewhat more conservative in our decision making, and sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. But I was reviewing with Melissa, we were looking to purchase a vacation home.
Yes.
And outside of the country. And when I first looked at them, I thought, I don't know, the prices seem kind of high right now.
Yeah.
I'll just wait.
Yeah.
And then I think it was a few months ago, the out-of-country real estate office that I worked at had sent me an email showing the price appreciation over the last 5 years.
Oh, no.
Exactly. Exactly. And
the cost of waiting.
The cost of waiting, right? So, I printed it out. I brought it with me, and I won't get into what real estate office it is.
Oh, it doesn't matter. We support them all.
Located, just for whatever reason. But basically, from 2018 to 2022, the cost has gone up by $254,000.
Ouch.
So, I might have saved, I was trying to save, maybe 10, 20 grand thinking, oh, this is going to go down a little bit or something, but I'm an idiot. In the end, it's going to cost me $250,000 more. The property that they show it as a value of $303,000 in 2018.
Yes.
And now they're showing that same property at around $499. Even if it's not exactly the one I would have bought, and they have in 2018, the properties went up 24%, 2019, 11%, 2020, 27%, COVID only 7%, and last year, 10%. Well, I don't know about you, but nobody's getting those returns in the bank, right?
No.
I don't get that on my checking account. And now I'm going to have to pay all this extra money for my vacation home.
And how many vacations could you have went on, my friend, if you would have already bought it?
I didn't even think about that. Thanks, Lori. How many thousands of dollars have I spent going to other destinations into a property I didn't own?
Yes.
I could have Airbnb'd it on, when I wasn't using it and made my money back. Absolutely. Perfect example of...
You better call that agent as soon as you leave and go buy that property.
It was an eye opener for sure, and super irritating.
Well, and I know why this is really important to you, because you are an analyzer. You have a spreadsheet. You do your analyzing, you do your analytics. I mean, the reality is, I know your thing is to house hack homes, correct? That's really what you've done over the years.
Yep.
And the last time I worked with you, you were still like breaking houses up by 5 bedrooms and collecting rent by bedroom, not by the entire house. Have you moved up from that? What are you doing now with your real estate?
Yeah, so I've gotten away from that.
Okay.
I just found that there's a lot of work that goes into that.
Yes.
So everybody that thinks like, oh, I'm just going to jump in real estate and collect a check, don't think that. Like anything where you're making good money, you've got to put in the effort. So that one takes a lot of effort. However, I will say this. Knowing a good realtor can make a lot of that easier.
Yes.
Because when I first started, and I rented that condo out.
Yes.
Melissa and I were living together, and I rented that condo out. I didn't use a real estate agent.
Right.
I used my father.
Yeah.
And I had to ended up...
Used his dad.
Yeah. I'm not saying working with family's bad.
No, not at all. We understand that.
But working with someone that doesn't have the current experience is not
Correct.
So great.
Right.
And although my father had been in real estate for years, which is why I trust him, he did it part-time while he was a teacher.
Yes.
And he hadn't done it in probably 10, 15, maybe more years.
Yeah.
And so he didn't get the right documents signed. My contract was not very good. And so I ended up having to evict a tenant that he did almost no due diligence.
Oh, no.
In letting that tenant in there. So what seemed like it was going to be easy and a quick deal actually turned out cost me a lot of money because I didn't use the resources available to me.
Right.
Also,
and it probably costs you more than what it would have cost to just use an agent.
Absolutely.
Correct?
And don't get me wrong, like the first time I went, to use an agent for leasing out or property management, and there was a fee, I was, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to be paying this fee. Absolutely 100% worth it. In terms of screening. And the other thing that a lot of people I think don't realize is the internet has made real estate very accessible.
Yes.
And technology is great, but they have passed so many laws in the last 10 to 20 years that navigating the legal minefield of a lease or a purchase, you need a quality professional that deals with it every day.
Yes.
And even though I have multiple investments and I've gone down the path, I don't know what the latest laws are.
Right.
I watch the books that come in from Melissa for the continuing education and this seminar and that seminar and learn about these laws.
Yes.
I don't know any of that.
Yeah.
So.
And Melissa does.
Right. And your whole staff, I'm sure, is very well trained in that.
Yes.
So paying that little bit of money to avoid the hassles and the headaches of not doing it correctly, worth it every time.
Yes.
Every time. Property management or having someone there, if you're going to do the management yourself, to at least screen your clients, worth every penny. And then a lot of times, if something comes up, a lot of times your realtor knows maybe someone they could recommend if you need repairs or something comes up. You have no idea, like, what do I do if all of a sudden my tenants now showed up with a dog that wasn't originally, that you didn't agree to, or something like that? Who would you normally call? I mean, seriously, you can get on Reddit and look that up yourself and trust whatever they come up with. I mean, I've seen some great things on there, but that's not how I'm going to manage my investments. So.
Because believe me, that's what the tenants are doing. They're Googling it and they're saying, how do I get my landlord, my property owner, to give me free rent this month, right?
Sure.
If you don't get the quality tenant in there, that's what they're doing.
Absolutely.
So you have, over the years, developed your real estate portfolio. Where do you continue to want to go? Like, what's your focus for the rest of your real estate investments? Because you said as you've grown older, you're more conservative. So does that mean that you don't intend to invest in more real estate, or does it mean like my investments are different now?
I think my investments are different now. There's a couple different ways. I have never tried the short-term rental.
Right.
And that seems to be really good for some folks. So I've always been curious about that. But I think my next step is going to be multifamily.
Oh, I love that.
Because with multiple units, you disperse the risk of a tenant situation.
Yes.
And I think that the pandemic, with all of the issues with tenants and rent and the ability to maybe remove a non-paying tenant or not being able to collect rent, it's easier to weather those storms with multifamily, right? If you have a 4-unit, it's a quadplex,
right,
and someone can't make their payment, well, you're only out 25%. It's going to hurt. Yeah. But some of my single families, if they don't pay the rent, I'm in trouble. Yeah. I'm certainly going to be a very upset individual every month when that doesn't come in, because just the property taxes alone, right? You've got to cover that.
Yeah, 100%. I know for myself, with regards to my investments, I'm a townhouse property owner. I love townhouses. They're very easy. I have clients currently right now that are liquidating their single family here in California because they want to reinvest in Hawaii and get a vacation rental out there. And from the research they've done, they believe they can collect at least $2,500 a week on a property out there, as opposed to $2,500 a month here. right? So do you consider investing out of state as well, or do you stay focused in, I just want to stay right here in California?
That's a tough question. I like having my properties close.
Yeah, you do.
We can, on another podcast, I can tell you my Ohio horror story, and where I learned it's very important to keep your properties close. So there's that. I wouldn't be necessarily afraid, but once again, I would go back to finding someone that I trust in that area to do the management. I think that without having that resource, you'd be putting a lot at risk. But I think townhouses are great. Now, why do you like the townhouses?
So I like the HOA because I feel like they're my property manager.
Sure.
Right? And I'm busy building a real estate office and a real estate business. So I don't have particular time to say, like, okay, I have to pay attention to the tenants every day. I let the HOA do that for me, and I pay them. And I just make sure the books are good, right? And the money's coming in. And so I enjoy that. I also don't have to worry about if the roof is a problem or the exterior, right?
Yes, I think townhouses and condos are great. I know that investors shy away because when you sit down and you do the math, you have to take the HOAs into your ROI calculations, right?
Yeah.
So those of us that sit there with the spreadsheets, sometimes it's looking a little iffy, but like you said, they cover the exterior of the building, and those are some of the biggest expenses when you have tenants. If you need a new roof, if a mainline water main goes out, I don't even want to talk about the gardening and the sprinklers, the yard, and then you may not know, you haven't looked at the place in a few months, you come by, all of a sudden the yard's dead. Now you got maybe have to have a tree removed.
Right.
Homeowners associations cover all of that. They're also a great value for your tenants because a lot of times they cover like sewer and trash and utility expenses that those tenants would have to pay extra in a single family.
Yes.
So your tenants get a good value, and so do you.
Yes.
Which I think is great. Definitely a fan of townhomes, and I wish, well, hopefully now with the new zoning that California is pushing through, we'll see more townhome communities, more condo communities popping up to
we are seeing more of that.
Some of the, the housing deficit that we have in this state.
So I want to pivot. I know we have a few minutes left on the conversation, but I really want to pivot into, you bought your first property. You didn't sell that one when you bought your next property, correct?
Correct.
You kept it.
Yes.
How did you save enough money to move into the next property without selling the first one? I think a lot of people would love to know that.
Wow. That is a very tough question. Part of it was as the property grew in value.
Yes.
I was able to transfer that first mortgage into a home equity line.
Okay.
So I eliminated my first mortgage.
Okay.
I had just the home equity line.
Oh.
But now I could pull money from that home equity line to make the next investment.
Yes.
And I think that's huge. We were laughing about the $250,000 that I just missed out on over the last few years. The reality of that, though, is that not only am I going to pay more?
Yes.
But in theory, I could use that additional equity to now purchase something else, another property. Unfortunately, I was a little bit younger, so it took me, I think, when did we do our first deal? Like 2008, 2009 time frame, and I bought that in 96. So there was a good 13 years of learning that maybe it's not best to use your home equity line for a fancy new car or a fun trip somewhere. Just caution to all the would-be HELOC people out there that want to rush out and get that.
Because they're available right now.
It took me 13 years to realize that, to have a better focus.
Yes.
But that's basically how I did it. I leveraged it.
So you bought your first property, and then you didn't get your next one for 13 years.
Correct.
you have to be patient, people. Real estate is not an overnight thing, right?
Right. It's not. You're not gonna. This is not crypto, right? We're not gambling on the next Bitcoin or Cardano or Ripple. I mean, if you want to play that, go for it, but expect that you can lose. I'm not going to lose in real estate. I'm not going to lose. It may take time, but I'm not going to lose. It's like being the house. If you want to gamble and go to Vegas and risk your money, go for it. That's kind of what crypto is, in my opinion.
Yes.
Other people, and I know people have made a ton of money, but there's also people that, win the lotto and have a ton of money. So, that can happen. But real estate, it's having discipline and time. And those two things will take you a long way.
Well, you were buying more real estate, right?
I was buying more real estate and some other toys.
Okay. Well, he just warned you about that, so we'll have that conversation.
Yeah. I've got a funny story about that condo, and I thought, this home equity line was the greatest thing in the world when I got it, because, oh my God, look at all this spending power I have.
You sound like my hubby Eric. He's like, free money.
Yeah. And
it was and not.
Well, and the rates had come down. It had gotten so cheap, kind of like what we had recently. That what do you mean? How can I not buy this new truck? How can I not buy this? And I can deduct the interest. This was back in the days where you could deduct a bunch of interest off your income tax. I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever found. Send me more home equity lines.
Let me buy more houses so I can get more home equity lines.
Yeah, that was the plan. I was full in on that. I was
going to take
that for as long as I could write it. Like I said, that's a whole nother story of how I eventually got past that. But I did. I eventually. I don't. I've snowballed that, and it's using the money that you get in rent and not going out and going to Bali every other weekend or whatever people do, driving those old beater car, wearing my
jeans
my Walmart jeans, and I just you've got to decide what your priorities are and focus on those. And if you do that, especially with real estate, if you're patient and you can see the future, your future and what you want in life and your goals, you can go a long way.